The wind howled across St. Helena's desolate cliffs as Napoleon Bonaparte sat hunched over his desk in October 1820, hand trembling with his quill. The man who once commanded Europe's destiny was now a prisoner on a rock in the middle of nowhere. But he had one final secret to preserve before death claimed him. "To my son, whose existence I have guarded more carefully than any military secret." The words came desperately. He wrote of Almira, a merchant's daughter he'd known in Egypt during his 1799 campaign. Their affair had been passionate, but secret. When she revealed her pregnancy, Napoleon faced an impossible choice. He could not acknowledge the child. Any illegitimate son would become a target for his enemies. So he made arrangements. He paid Almira handsomely, secured her passage to Malta, but made her swear an oath. The child would never know his father's identity until Napoleon was dead. The boy was born in March 1800 and named Alexandra, after Alexander the Great. For 20 years Napoleon received secret reports. The boy had become remarkable, intelligent, charismatic, with natural gifts for strategy. Now Napoleon sealed the letter with wax, pressing his signet ring into it. He called his trusted servant Marchand, handing him the letter and a leather case containing a medallion with the Bonaparte family crest. "When I am gone," Napoleon whispered, "deliver this. The recipient will know what to do." 6 months later, Napoleon died. Europe breathed relief. The man who had terrified the continent was finally gone. But in Brussels, 20-year-old Alexandre Mercier received a letter that shattered his world. His mother Almira watched as he opened it with trembling hands. She had waited 20 years for this moment. Alexandre read it 3 times. Napoleon Bonaparte was his father, the conqueror of Egypt, the emperor who challenged all of Europe. That blood ran in his veins. The letter provided proof, inheritance instructions, and something that ignited fire in his heart. It spoke of unfinished business, of Europe suffering under tyranny, of a dream that died at Waterloo. "Is it true?" he asked his weeping mother. "Every word. He was protecting you. If anyone knew you were his son, they would have killed you." Alexandra stood at the window. The world thought Napoleon's story was over, but he felt ambition and purpose awakening. He was Napoleon's son, and he had inherited more than blood. He had inherited a mission. Over months, Alexandra carefully verified his identity, using the medallion and his father's detailed information. He contacted Napoleon's former officers. When they saw Alexandra, his piercing eyes, distinctive features, natural command presence, they became believers. François Goudin, a former captain, was first to recognize Napoleon in Alexandra's mannerisms. "Mon Dieu," he whispered at their secret Paris meeting, "you are his son, no doubt. But what do I do?" Alexandra asked. "My father is dead. The empire is gone. The Bourbons rule." François leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Your father's dream isn't dead. It sleeps." Throughout Europe, thousands remember the empire's glory. They wait for a sign, a leader, hope. François introduced Alexandra to others, officers, bureaucrats, merchants, intellectuals, who thrived under Napoleon, and now faced persecution. Meeting secretly, Alexandra began understanding his father's legacy and the loyalty he still commanded. By spring 1822, Alexandra had assembled the Society of the Eagle, a secret organization dedicated to preserving Napoleon's ideals. But he was learning something crucial. People were tired of war. Any restoration needed to offer more than military glory. In 1823, disaster nearly struck when a drunk officer mentioned Alexandra to a Bourbon spy. He fled Paris hours ahead of secret police, hiding in Lyon. During those tense weeks, he realized his father's bold, aggressive approach wouldn't work. What if instead of military conquest, he built influence through economics, culture, ideas? Alexandra transformed the society from nostalgic soldiers into something sophisticated, a conspiracy operating across borders, infiltrating governments and businesses, accumulating power without attention. He courted industrialists, liberal intellectuals, even moderate monarchists. He built a coalition united by their belief in necessary change. By 1825, the society had become a network of networks. In Paris, they ran a publishing house promoting progressive ideas. In Lyon, textile mills with revolutionary profit sharing. In Marseille, Mediterranean shipping control. In Belgium, schools and libraries. Each activity served multiple purposes: spreading ideas, building economic power, creating loyal constituencies. Alexandre carefully cultivated relationships with young officers in European armies. Frustrated by aristocratic promotion, he didn't recruit them for revolution too risky. Instead, he created debts of gratitude callable later. In 1827, Alexandre married Marie-Catherine Dubois, a wealthy merchant's daughter. A partnership more than romance. She became his closest confidant, managing society operations. In 1828, she bore a son. They named Louis Napoleon. Holding his infant, Alexandre felt legacy's weight. This child carried Napoleon's blood. Throughout the 1830s, the society extended across Europe, France, Belgium, Switzerland, German states. They infiltrated banks, newspapers, universities, government ministries. Most involved had no idea they were part of a larger organization. Those who knew were fiercely loyal to the director. In 1846, severe agricultural crisis struck Europe. Food shortages caused economic hardship and discontent. Alexandre mobilized society resources for relief: soup kitchens, subsidized grain, employment. This earned tremendous goodwill while demonstrating organizational capacity. He also saw the crisis undermining government stability. He began preparing for revolution, spreading propaganda, organizing workers' associations, positioning society members strategically. In February 1848, revolution came to Paris. Louis-Philippe abdicated and fled. The Second Republic was proclaimed. Similar revolutions erupted across Europe. Alexandre had waited 27 years. Society members positioned themselves throughout the new government. Their newspapers shaped opinion. Their associations mobilized demonstrations. But then Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, Napoleon's nephew, returned from exile. He had attempted 2 failed coups, but now saw his chance. Alexandre met him secretly. Louis Napoleon was ambitious, convinced of his destiny to restore the Bonaparte name. Alexandre faced a choice: reveal his identity and risk dynastic conflict, or work with Louis Napoleon from shadows. François Goudin advised, "You've spent 3 decades building secret power. Why throw that away? Let Louis Napoleon be the face. If he succeeds, you can reveal yourself. If he fails, you remain hidden. The society is your real power, not a name." Alexandre supported Louis Napoleon's ambitions while maintaining his separate organization. In December 1848, Louis Napoleon was elected president with 74% of the vote. Alexandre had used society influence to secure victory, but he quickly realized his mistake. Louis Napoleon was more cunning than expected. In December 1851, he staged a coup, dissolving the National Assembly. In November 1852, he became Emperor Napoleon III. France had a Bonaparte emperor, but the wrong one, ruling with authoritarian methods rather than the merit-based system Alexandre's father championed. Alexandre found himself in an impossible position. Revealing his identity now would seem like jealousy, but silence made him complicit. In 1853, attending Napoleon III's wedding at Notre Dame, Alexandre realized something crucial. Napoleon III didn't need to know. The society could continue influencing events from behind the scenes. This liberated Alexandre from revelation's burden. He had been so focused on claiming his birthright that he'd lost sight of the larger goal: implementing his father's vision. Whether as public figure or hidden influence mattered less than achieving the goal. Over 15 years, Alexandre used his business interests to advocate for progressive policies: infrastructure investment, educational reform, legal modernization.
Napoleon III implemented some reforms, but also engaged in expensive foreign adventures. The society became ideologically diverse. Alexandre, now in his 60s with his son Lucien active in the society, thought increasingly about legacy. He began writing his political philosophy, The Testament of the Eagle. It combined Napoleonic rationality and meritocracy with democratic accountability and social welfare. He envisioned a European federation of democratic states united to prevent war and promote prosperity. In 1870, disaster struck. Napoleon III declared war on Prussia and was defeated at Sedan, captured with his army. The Second Empire collapsed. Alexandre, now 70, watched with déjà vu. His father's empire ended at Waterloo, his cousins at Sedan, a curse of the Bonaparte name. But Alexandre had learned from his father's mistakes. The society survived intact. Many members participated in forming the Third Republic. Lucien was elected to the National Assembly. The war's aftermath confirmed that military glory was a dead end. True power came from institutions, economic strength, cultural influence. In 1875, Alexandre's health failed. As he lay dying in his study, surrounded by 5 decades of documents, he reflected on his extraordinary life. The world never knew Napoleon's son had walked among them, shaping events from shadows. But he had come to see anonymity as strength. He had established institutions and networks that would outlive him. Lucien came as his condition worsened. Alexandre handed him the medallion Napoleon had sent, the Bonaparte crest that began this journey. Your grandfather gave this to me, Alexandre said. Now I give it to you, but with it comes a choice. You can reveal our history, claim our heritage, and risk everything I've built for personal glory. Or you can continue the work, preserving the society and advancing its goals, keeping the secret for another generation. Perhaps the moment for revelation will come in your lifetime. Or perhaps the secret is itself more powerful than the truth. You must decide. Alexandre died in November 1875. His funeral was well attended by prominent figures, but few understood what this man had accomplished. Obituaries described him as a successful merchant and philanthropist, but in secret locations across Europe, Society of the Eagle members mourned their director, the man who had guided them for over half a century. They knew the truth. Something significant had passed from the world. Lucien assumed leadership, facing new challenges. The society had grown large and diffuse. Some factions wanted to abandon secrecy for open politics. Others wanted pure business focus. The question of revelation haunted Lucien. By the 1880s, the Third Republic was stable. Would anyone care about Napoleon's secret son? Lucien tested public reaction through a speculative article. Did Napoleon have a secret son? The response was underwhelming. Most dismissed it as Bonapartist fantasy. The revelation his grandfather prepared for would have landed with a dull thud. This freed Lucien as it had freed his father. If public recognition was meaningless, the society's value was in what it did, not glory claimed. Lucien refocused on concrete achievements: universal education, workers' rights, scientific research, hospitals, libraries. The society became less political conspiracy, more progressive philanthropic network. But the secret remained valuable as unifying myth. New initiates to the inner circle were still told the truth. They were part of an organization founded by Napoleon's secret son, carrying forward the emperor's vision. This gave their work meaning beyond mere politics. They were soldiers in a long war for human progress. By the 20th century, the society evolved again. Alexandre's grandchildren led it. The organization spread beyond Europe to the Americas, Africa, Asia. Membership became increasingly diverse. Women, people outside the traditional elite. The original Bonapartist ideology absorbed elements of liberalism, socialism, anarchism. The old guard complained the society had lost its way, become too diffuse. But the younger generation argued this evolution was natural. Napoleon's core insight, that society should be organized by merit rather than birth, remained the foundation. And so the secret endured, passed from generation to generation. Napoleon's hidden son never claimed his throne, never led armies, never wore a crown, but his legacy, a network of influence spanning continents, dedicated to human progress and rational governance, proved more durable than empires built on military conquest. The world never knew his name, but it felt his impact in ways large and small, in reforms passed and institutions built, in ideas spread and lives improved. Perhaps that was the truest form of power, not glory remembered in history books, but change that becomes so embedded in society's fabric that its origins are forgotten. Alexander had understood this in the end. His father had conquered Europe and lost it, but Alexander had planted seeds that would grow for generations, roots too deep to be torn out by any single defeat. The medallion passed down through the family, and with it, the choice: reveal or remain hidden, claim glory or continue the work. Each generation made its decision, but the society endured, evolving with the times, always working toward that vision first glimpsed by a dying emperor on a lonely island. A vision of a world governed by reason and merit, where human potential could flourish regardless of birth. That was Napoleon's true legacy, preserved not by the son the world knew, but by the son it never suspected existed.